Okay. This makeup, new look. I'm not a big fan of the look, but we're gonna have to make do, and the next couple of videos are gonna look like this. This video is long overdue. I had this video prepared a long time ago, but didn't film it in time, and this is about a topic that was talked about, that happened, that took place 2 months ago, and now I'm talking about it now. But you know what? I feel like it's the reason behind the subject that we're filming this video, not... Anyways, the intention is pure, and better late than never to post this video. So let's get right into it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Asam by Hab, but if that's too much of a tongue twister, then you can call me Ocean B. So, topic of today is Charlie Kirk, and some people may know, I mean, the same kind of influential topics float around. It's possible that if you listen to him, you could be interested in my videos. What's the expression? Birds of a bunch flock together, I believe. And I think that's the expression. In any case, I like to speak on a topic that I would personally call a tragedy. He now passed a couple weeks ago, and that's when I got this video ready. But now it's been a couple months now, and I wish I did this video earlier, but I wasn't in town when it happened, or else I would have done a video on it right away. But then it just got delayed, procrastinated. I wasn't in the right headspace, which hopefully I'll get a video out on that. But I've been trying to get better mentally, and that's kind of what we're doing. So try to get back on track. Anyways, I just wanted to speak on the topic really quickly. I don't look up to a lot of people. I don't take the time to be like, I really like and admire this person. But I can honestly say positively that my list is growing as I search for figures who speak on bigger existential issues and deliver principles through the characterization of their ideas. But even better, if their character aligns with those ideas, like those principles clearly, like if their character and their principles align, then that's a bonus for me. Charlie kind of became a role model for me, someone I would aspire to be like. And for me, it meant a lot, because a lot of times I look at figures as more of people to gain ideas from, points, reference characters, like figuring out things about that person, things that they learned in their lives that you can acquire or apply for yourself to be the best version of yourself, so that you can contribute to yourself and society in a positive way. Yeah, he became a role model, and my list of people who I'm starting to look up to, who I start to like use as a reference to build my character or build my mind and ideas, is growing. But he definitely started the trajectory in a positive way for me. And so, especially when I was about 20 years old, now I'm 22. Time is flying on this channel. When I started Journey of Life, I was 20, you guys. I'm 22, turning 23. I need to pick up the pace. Okay. And so there is a part of me that didn't, and that doesn't really like picking a role model, but Charlie was one of the few persons, if not the person, that I really did look up to. And he changed my perspective about where I was going with myself and my life. And when it comes to picking a role model, I think it really depends on their character and their values. And some people, it's just about what you like and what's trending. And this is not to hate on people who have idols and think like that, who like focus on like what are they wearing, what are they doing, what's popping, what do most people like. It's not to hate, is that I think that if you're gonna pick someone to look up to, then it should be based off their character and their values. These are just my fundamental principles that I believe in and that I'm sharing with you guys. I just believe in certain principles, and I believe that Charlie believed in seeking truth, and I think he believed in the bettering of self and the bettering of the collective. I know that some people don't necessarily like him and don't have a good positive outlook on who he was as an individual, but I think it has to do with his faith, and I think people are judging him because they don't really understand his approach. But I'll get into that a little bit further in this video. Anyways, I believe he was aiming at bettering the society as a whole. And I guess politics is basically organized altruism, or at least it's meant to be. I tend to look up to people who are generally thinkers, who think of contributions that are a little bit outside of themselves, who tend to contribute in a way that helps society as a whole and or can help elevate a person and society simultaneously, which for me is comprehensible, being that my areas of interest are philosophy and psychology. I know Charlie was in politics, but his emphasis was humanity in a system which, if you trace back, that would be the foundation of politics, like humanity and philosophy. But I won't get too deep in that. And so I admired his approach. He emphasized on truth, staying pragmatic and logical, and it can be easy as humans to make decisions or create beliefs based off emotion. And emotion is a factor that must be considered when creating solutions, but it must not be based on principles that are immovable. I meant emotive. That emotion is an expression of a state and fluctuates circumstantially. Therefore, you cannot base governing principles simply on emotion, but rather on the logos. My camera's about to die. I'll be right back. And we're back. Sorry for the interruption. Let's get back into this video. I'm feeling excited, guys. Okay, this is a good sign. Okay, anyways. Now, as I was saying, we can all admit that there are flaws in society and that there are certain things that we do as a collective that aren't beneficial for the individual or the collective. And I think if we stay in the mindset of like, well, that's just how the world is and there's just problems everywhere, then nothing gets better and nothing gets done. That's not how inventions are made. That's not how innovation manifests. And that's not how movement progresses, you know? And Charlie had a great and a huge movement, and he was an influential man. But he didn't start off that way. He had a vision, pitched it, and put it all into practice until it could, or try to manifest it until, or worked hard towards it until it could be materialized. And it wasn't about education. It was about persistently targeting a problem and finding a way to solve it. It's a little weird coming from me, I guess, to follow Charlie in some sense, because I'm Canadian and he really mainly talked about the American people and did have a nationalist perspective a bit in what his movement stood for and things like that. But like I said, I believe in concepts, I believe in principles, and at the end of the day, Canada and the US fundamentally come from the same idea, even though they, as a society, as a community, think a little bit differently, but fundamentally come from the same place. When we talk about the West, this includes Canada, this includes the US. You know what I mean? When we talk about the West side of the country, of the world, we include Canada. So this is why I'm trying to say the West kind of mindset. Y'all, I know that South America technically counts and is a part of the West, but when it comes to fundamental values and what we believe in as a group and collective, I would say Canada and US are a little bit more like sisters, brothers. South America, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily put them in the same category, but I would definitely call them the West because obviously they are the West. Back to the video, y'all. Y'all, I'm trying to reach this camera when I could just bring it down a little bit. Anyways, let's continue. So I think that things that Charlie taught could be used in application, could be used in a how we conduct ourselves kind of way. What I loved is that I am a person of faith, and like I've previously mentioned in the video, Battle Scars, my faith is starting to, or has been playing a big part in my life. But what I would love is for me to be able to talk about it without having to necessarily speak on it, meaning things about my faith and what I believe will reveal itself on its own, hopefully. If your belief is embedded in your system of thinking, then it will be expressed in how you conduct yourself and how you speak and how you articulate yourself. So the idea is that it just comes out as I express myself. I believe something that is founded on truth doesn't defy logic. It can be outside of our parameter of understanding, but it can be related back to tangible ideas. If I can talk about subjects that people take issue with, struggle with, or ponder on, and break them into principles, that chasing of ideas lead to a hunger for truth, which reveals itself in its quest. I break down a principle and in some way I use my spiritual beliefs to back up my principles or to develop my principles, and they still follow the subject of truth, then there is validity in those statements. Incorporating your belief into your work showcases on its own the validity in its principles because it's applicable. I hope I'm not generalizing too much, but rather introducing an idea that I feel Charlie embodied beautifully. Yes, he was controversial at times, but it comes with the field. You know, a politician, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer should be able to practice while still following their belief system too. To a certain degree, people naturally do, but sometimes people contradict their principles. A person should be able to practice law or practice being a doctor and still follow principles of a certain belief. Conceptually, I know in practice it's not always so easily applicable. Integration can be its own math depending on laws and regulations surrounding the profession, but I mostly mean that in theory, one should be in alignment. If it follows a truth claim, then it should be applied in your everyday life. And I mentioned this, but Charlie believed in truth claims. He believed in development of character. He believed in wisdom, which is kind of the idea here of this channel, which is just building wisdom, building character. And he was someone who built his business from the ground up. He didn't have a university education. He believed in being knowledgeable and educated, but he didn't necessarily think that you need to follow the matrix to do that. You can decide that you can want to be knowledgeable, decide that you want to learn, decide that you want to be aware of what's going on in the world, what's going on with you, what's going on with what this society or this world is comprised of without a degree, which, let me just say, I am still pursuing a degree just because it makes more sense in the long run of things with what I want to do in my life. But that doesn't mean that you have to pursue a degree. You can still be successful. I'm not necessarily saying you have to join a platform, join YouTube, do social media, but I'm saying that there's lots of jobs out there that don't require a degree and that you can still make a good amount of entry-level money and build your way up later on. There's an exception, of course, of jobs that you can go without a degree, which is like jobs like being a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, etc. Charlie was a politician. And I don't consider myself to be much of a politics person. Politics has never been my thing, has never been my forte per se. It's also something that hasn't necessarily drawn me in as much because I do believe it might be a field with a bit of deceit, maybe a lot of deceit. Not fully, completely deceitful, but deceitful. We can't lie. They have to hide some things from us because I don't know if we can handle the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You know? Yeah, just considering that they are likely concealing much from the public, possibly for the good, but also possibly for the self. The idea itself creates a dislike in me towards it. And I've been in it recently so that I'm more knowledgeable in the area or more aware of what's going on, which the situation is just so sad. If you don't know what happened, Charlie Kirk was having a debate at a university in Utah. And about 200 yards away, someone shot him and decided to take his life. And it doesn't matter what anyone says, that's a horrible thing to do. Because even if you don't believe in someone's beliefs, you don't believe in what they have to say, or you think that they're extreme in some way, we're in a free country, okay? Everything is about opposing ideas. We're in a free world. Why are people retaliating that way? I think if you're going to fight someone, then you should fight them with your mind. I think you should fight them with your ideas. We shouldn't be afraid to challenge beliefs. I think you should fight them with your own movement, you know? And Charlie had a huge movement. He was very influential. He had a lot of people who followed him, who looked up to him, and I was one of them. Hence why I'm doing this video in the first place, because I'm outraged. Yes, it took me 2 months to do this video, but I'm still doing it because I believe in something and I think that what happened is wrong. Okay? And as controversial as some of the things that he says may have been, or he said may have been, I think if you look at the full picture of things, you can seek a level of understanding. He was in politics. So it's a lot harder to be more inclusive in speech with what he talked about and how he talked about them. He has to be more clear and cut. He has to be more direct. He's addressing the influence happening on the collective. He couldn't focus on the impact on the individual level. So he has to make sure that he's reaching as many people as possible, not just honing on the little one person that might be hurting at his comment. He can't. He's in politics. He needs to talk to all of you, not just one of you. He can't focus on the individual because it is so subjective, and addressing the issue of the public needs to be objective in order to come to conclusions that advance the whole. He's in politics. He has to encompass the whole. He has to make sure that the extremes are being recognized so that because there's extremes in everything. There's extreme right and there's extreme left. There's extreme everything. And when he's talking, because he's in politics, he has to cover those extremes. Although I do believe he does speak on things on the individual level, well, and they normally fell on the conservative values simply because he explains how a unified family creates more secure individuals, which creates a unified nation. But you can't speak on every variable that could possibly exist. He looked for guides that helped assist in each person's exploration in the world and those subjective experiences. I'm speaking quite generally, of course, and all in all, he spoke about politics, whereas my channel, though it can cover political subjects, because eventually I will talk about political topics in some way, and though it can cover political topics, the way I will talk about them is meant to be more inclusive of the personal experience. So it's meant to be more considerate of the individual perspective as much as I can, whereas Charlie, when he spoke, he had to talk about the principle in itself, a principle alone, the principle without all the extra, whereas here, for example, I have more space to speak on different feelings involved, like this is how it might make you feel, and this is how it might be expressed, and this might be the psychology behind it. Like, he doesn't have time for that. He's talking about the political, and I'm not. Side note, I keep talking about him in the present. I obviously haven't fully accepted that he is gone, but don't worry, bear with me, I will get there. Just keep listening. It's necessarily talking about the political. I'm talking about the emotional. I'm quite emotional on this channel. I don't know if I'll let you see me cry, but I'm trying to be emotional, vulnerable. I think that's important. I am trying to speak on the emotional in an objective, at times referencing the subjective. I'm talking about the wisdom, the development of character, and he was talking about the development of character as well, but he was also trying to develop the character of the nation. And I think there's a difference between developing population and developing a person. How you approach one person might be different than how you approach a group, and I think it should be recognized. This whole situation with Charlie kind of opens up my eyes at what we're actually fighting and how serious the battle of the soul is. And like I said, I'm not going to make this channel about my faith, but I think Charlie was a person of faith and he was proud of his faith, and I am also very proud of my faith. But the way I want to approach it, because I want to be able to maybe get that person who is lost, who is trying to figure out who they are, who is trying to grow as an individual without feeling this pressure of conversion, which I think conversion can happen in any way, at any time, just through exposure. And I'm not trying to apply that with pressure, because at the end of the day, this channel is a journey. So you can come along with me, hear what I have to say, talk about some topics and ponder on these topics and, brainstorm them a little bit, and then come to the decision that maybe what she is saying can have some truth and validity in it. And then do your own research and take the time to delve the topic and question it for yourself. And when it comes to my faith, I took the time to learn about my faith, about what my faith is about. I took the time to try to brush over a little bit different kinds of beliefs and search for what best unified the truth. I do believe there are different ways to get to that. I briefly searched different religions to understand what I believe and what seemed to be closer to the truth of reality and what encompasses the truth of all, and what can or what is more difficult to disprove in theory and concept and principle. Many may disagree with me, but I do stand firm behind my faith. Principles are something that should be able to be used at all times, at any time, and don't necessarily change with time. But I invite people to be inquisitive. But the way that people have been mocking Charlie's death has shown me the cruelty of people. Charlie was 31 years old. He had 2 children, and I'm pretty sure his oldest isn't even 5 years old. And he built his life from the ground up. Took the time to do the work, put in the hours and hours and hours of work, because he had a belief. He had an idea. He believed in his God so much, and he believed in his nation so much, and he believed in the contribution that he could make. The money that he received was just a result of the work he put in, and was just what comes with giving your all and a good work ethic, which please, I wish I had. Please, I wish that I could imitate. If I have to imitate anything from him, is his work ethic. It's just a response to the input. And people are saying he deserved his death. A good thing he's gone. We're better off without him. These are cruel things to say about a person, about anyone ever. Even evil people, just sick or deranged. That's someone's life like that was just taken out of hatred. Pure hatred. Someone took his life when all he was doing was trying to be honest as best as he could. People might not agree with him, but it was honest and it wasn't intended to hurt people. And I like to say, foundationally, Christians are not supposed to be judging. They believe in sharing love, sharing the truth of God, sharing the truth about what God designed us to be and how to respond towards each other. And in response to all of that, I wouldn't necessarily say that Charlie was judging people. I think he was just having to be more direct about how he discussed and more cutthroat with certain concepts. They are difficult topics that people don't always want to talk about, and those are topics that I've had to take the time to really figure out if I'm ever going to talk about on my channel, because it definitely promotes a lot of controversy. And of course, you can do well on social media if you're doing controversial things, but that's not the purpose here. Okay? The purpose here is to have people grow as an individual, to develop their characters, develop their self-image, develop who they are from the inside out, and to believe in themselves more, as I'm also learning to believe in myself more, and we can do it together as a team. This channel is about evolving, and I'm not here to bring down people, but to help them see life in a new light, or in a better light, or in a more positive light. And though it might seem very cruel the way he would talk about certain things, his intention was just to say that there is love beyond the condition of personal desire. It might have seemed very cruel the way he talked about things. Charlie was just trying to show the character of God in application to how a nation should carry itself, emanating his glory. And though it might seem cruel in that the way he talked about certain things, he wasn't trying to say that people are invaluable. I thought he was still quite considerate. There are many people out there who are harsh and cruel with their words, and I don't think Charlie was one of them. He was just trying to emulate the concept of God and how it should reflect in a nation and how it could allow for the advancement of that nation. He didn't even believe in a theocracy. He was killed because of his influence, and it's tragic. He didn't believe that a nation should be ruled by one religion. That's not what he believed in. But he believed in the principles of God, the concept of God, and what that could do to build the character of a nation. And with that, certain philosophies are put into place to figure out how what's right and what's wrong can be developed. If we aren't able to find our guidelines, if we aren't able to figure out what's right and what's wrong, then we don't know how to drive ourselves, how to drive the people, how to drive the individual. And that's what he was trying to encourage people to acknowledge. And I find it funny a little bit that people are saying that there's a lot of atrocities that are happening in the world, and when he dies, it's made a big deal, and then it's made a huge topic of conversation. And this is completely true. There are wars that are currently going on, lots of deaths, lots of lives that are being lost on a daily basis. And these tragedies of war are important, and people should pay more attention to that, and people should contribute to helping resolve some of those conflicts, and they should let that be accepted as reality. These things should be acknowledged. The pain and suffering that's going on in the world should be acknowledged. But I wouldn't go as far as say that his death didn't have an impact in some way, because he was contributing in a huge way. And even if you were on the same side as he was, for the people who were on his side, he was contributing in a huge way. He had a large movement. People who were on his side, they were being impacted, me included. They were learning and developing their character and knowing how to move forward in society in a more positive way. People looked up to him. People saw him as a role model and believed in themselves, believed in a better tomorrow and a better future because of him. And it breaks my heart hearing these comments of people saying it's good that he's gone, and seeing the cruelty of people's opinions and views. It kind of brings back this perspective of, yeah, there is a battle of the soul. There is a battle for the mind. There are people that are needing to realize that life is much bigger than ourselves, and sometimes we're going to hear things that we don't want to hear, or sometimes we're going to have to acknowledge things that we don't want to acknowledge. And at the end of the day, it's a battle for the truth, right? Evolution says it's survival of the fittest, and if there is a movement that is captivating so many people, there might be something to pay attention to. There might be something that has value in that. And at the end of the day, everyone is fighting for what they believe in, or trying to prove that their belief is true, or trying to prove that there is something that needs to be recognized in society. And maybe we're in an era where things are tipping on different sides than they normally, and people don't always, or are not always happy about what they have to hear, and that can be on both sides. People are experiencing things that they don't want to, that they think is outrageous, that they think is completely condescending or disrespectful to the individual, disrespectful to their beliefs, or disrespectful to their honor as a human being. We're all, at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the betterment of the world. Let the culture war express itself. In the end, what's meant to survive will. This is a free world, for crying out loud. I blame Americans and their legal guns. I do blame Americans a little bit on their legal guns. It's a little different in Canada if you don't know, and that's one of the reasons I tend to prefer Canada a little bit more. Maybe a lot more, but that's very political, and I do not want to get into that at all. And I would like to say, as a Christian, I honor everyone, no matter what you believe. No matter how you carry yourself, no matter how you express yourself, I think that there is honor and respect in the individual. But everyone has values and principles to determine what is good for you and what's good for the population and what's good for the people. And that's what people are fighting for. At the end of the day, the truth will reveal itself. The truth will come to light. What's best for the whole of the people will end up winning in the end. But I don't think it should be through violence. At the end of the day, my name is Ocean Pacific on this channel. I believe in not necessarily having to result in combat. Others beg to differ, and I'm not saying that that's the belief of all people who believe the same things I believe. And I'm not saying that that is the perfect way to go about things, but I do believe that there is a way to recognize people's beliefs, but still honor the truth and respect an individual and still recognize the truth. I have the luxury of maybe expressing or talking about certain topics in a way that might be more tolerable to some people, and there's others like Charlie who are in politics who don't have that luxury to express things in a way that's more tolerable to a general group of people. Yet I still believe he did it better than most. And so it is sad that we've gotten to a world where it's no longer an exchange of ideas, but an imposition of ideas. I do believe in an exchange of ideas. I do believe in an exchange of principles, an exchange of where the mind wants to explore, and there are different belief systems and there are different ways to express what we think is best for the world. In the end, it should be the truth that wins. What protects more people's interests? How to do that is debatable, but that's the goal. What makes sense for the lives of the collectives, not just the lives of the individual. There are lots of people dying in the world, and there is a man who was influential and had an honest movement and who died because someone didn't like what he had to say, who has 2 children who have to grow up without a father because someone didn't like what he had to say, who had friends and families who supported him, who will not get to have him because someone didn't like what he had to say. You know, life circumstances happen all the time. People die from diseases. People die from car crashes. People die every day. Anything could have taken his life, but someone chose selfishly to kill him. Why? Because maybe in the end they knew that he did have influence and he was, changing so many lives, and some people didn't like that, didn't like where things were going, and it's cruel. It's a cruel reality. But at the end of the day, what happened to Charlie, he did not deserve that. What happened to his family, they did not deserve that. And for everyone who looks up to Charlie, did not deserve that. I think we've lost this idea of being empathetic and what it means to be empathetic or to be caring for another person. Caring for someone is wanting what's well for them, caring for their well-being, wanting the best for them. And I don't think you would let someone rob a bank if you care about them and know it's good for them. You would let them know that it's probably not the right choice for them, and both sides have different ways of expressing that. But in the end, it's about love. It's about caring for the good of everyone, caring for the good of the soul, caring for the good of the self, and caring for the good of the nation. I know that God has Charlie, and I don't expect to talk much about my faith again, not because I'm ashamed of it or because I'm hiding it, but because my goal is for you to not be thrown off by the fact that I have faith, but to invite you to see the beauty of life, and hopefully that directs you to God yourself on your own, because the truth leads you to that. But I'm not saying that people who are more clear-cut and direct with their beliefs are doing wrong. I'm saying that that's not the purpose of my channel, because I have a way of my own of wanting to invite people to the faith. Maybe that's how God designed me or called me to do it, and Charlie was called differently and he left a great legacy. He left a great name, and I myself will try to honor him in the things that I do because he changed my perspective and helped me believe in my dreams a lot easier. Anyways, I think that that's going to be all for this video, guys. This was just a quick little, it was supposed to be quick, but it was long. It was a lot longer than I thought. But I think I just had a lot to say about the topic, and I was quite passionate about it too. But I think that's going to be all for this video. I just wanted to show how I felt about the situation, how I felt, and show my love and support towards Charlie Kirk. At the end of the day, it's a tragedy, and there are many other tragedies going on in the world, but for the Americans or the Canadians here who've been touched, at the end of the day, this is still North America. We can do better. You don't have to like what I have to say, but you can respect me and respect my voice. This is a battle of ideas. Let the best idea win. It doesn't have to be a war. It can just be a debate. I might do a part 2 on this whole Charlie Kirk topic. He didn't just die, he was assassinated, and that's what makes it so sad. That's what makes it terrible. That's what makes it cruel. And some people are finding joy in his death, but for the people who looked up to him, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your post notification, and I'll see you guys in my next video.